From national security to global corruption, this is the Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.
Well, a very warm welcome back to the Muckrakers with me, Andrew Eborn. It's just gone 12 noon, 7 a.m. in Philadelphia and around the world. It's time for the Muckrakers. And here on the Muckrakers, we always pledge to continue tackling the most pressing and controversial news issues of our time. And boy, have we got a few of those. Our mission is to continue providing more light and less heat in our unwavering quest to uncover the truth and to inform, educate and entertain, all with dignity and respect. And that's what I really like. Whatever our guests have to say, it's a platform for them to air their views. We may not agree with them, but we'll always certainly listen to them. And it's important that we don't just ask the questions, but question the answers. And boy, is freedom of speech ever under threat. Today, we're going to discuss Telegram and the arrest of its founder, CEO, Pavel Durov. And I'm delighted that the Muckrakers is made up of me, Andrew Eborn, TNT host, Basil Valentine, and the wonderful Pele Neroff-Taylor makes his return visit as well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah,
it's good to
be with you again, Andrew.
And it's great that we can speak. That's a wonderful thing. There's a little meme going around at the moment, which is this. I think, therefore, I am arrested. There we go. Have a look at that. This is the. It's working on that sort of basis. That they're adapting René Descartes in Britain. I think, therefore, I am arrested. And how true is that? Everybody says I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to your death the right to say it. And they all attribute it to Voltaire. It wasn't Voltaire at all, but rather the Evelyn Beatrice Hall. And we've got this arrest, which we've just heard about. There was a press release, which you probably saw from the Tribunal Judiciaire de Paris. I'll read just a bit of it just to put it into context. Pavel Durov, founder and CEO of instant messaging and platform Telegram, was arrested at the airport in the outskirts of Paris on Saturday, the 24th of August. He was then taken into police custody at 8 p.m. This measure comes in the context of judicial investigation, which apparently had been opened on the 8th of July. And it was basically against a person unnamed at that stage on charges of complicity. And there's various complicities they talk about, including webmastering of online platform to enable an illegal transaction in an organized group, certain child pornography and various other things, and refusal to communicate. And the list goes on and on and on. Pele, what's your take on it?
Well, it's obviously that I remember the revolutions of 1989 against the Soviet Empire, and I wonder if we're sort of at the revolutions against the American Empire, and it starts from within the American Empire itself with RFK saying that freedom of speech is dead in Europe. He's joining up. It's almost talking about a uniparty, just as you had a kind of uniparty in Eastern Europe in 1989. Everyone was lining up against the communists, whether they were leftists, ecologists, or conservatives. You're seeing something like that in America now with Trump and RFK, and basically the whole a lot of the old Democrat Party are kind of flocking over to Trump and giving him much needed heft in terms of policy and credibility in terms of getting the independence. So they're talking about that. They're using Elon Musk as a multiplier of their views, and of course a lot of the empire's lies are being aired on on X, from the various assassinations that have been carried out by the West. And the stories about Ukraine that go completely against, what you read in the mainstream media. You've got Elon Musk with 200 million supporters. You've got, what's his name, Tucker Carlson, I don't know, maybe 80 million. You've got Trump himself with 90 million people. These figures dwarf anything that comes out of the Daily Telegraph and all the other deep state assets that the UK and French and American intelligence agencies have used to spread their narrative. And we're living in an era of narrative control. NATO said the first battlefield is not the front line, it's the brain. And they feel that they're losing. So it's a mistake just to say it's a French thing. I think it's coordinated. I think the UK Foreign Office was probably in on it. The US State Department was in on it. So we mustn't exonerate. I think they're all on the same side and they want to dampen free speech. And I think this could be a shot across the bows for Elon Musk, sending that Elon Musk is too powerful at the moment. But Pavel Durov, of course, he's East European and it's easier. And I guess some people say that Elon Musk is more compromised in terms. He's opened some back doors on X. I mean, these guys have to be diplomats, as it were. They've got to choose their battles. But Durov, as far as I understand, he's been a very, very, very firm. Some people, of course, say that he's at Kremlin. I mean, so the Kremlin have backdoors onto Telegram in a similar way that Facebook has backdoors to the CIA. I don't know. It could be. So it is a bit of a Cold War, but it's also a war against free speech and a shot across the bows, because the resistance is rising. It failed in the UK. It sort of failed in France, but in the US, it's a big issue. I think Trump could win. That's my take.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the great news is we had Errol Musk on, the father of Elon, last week, and he's agreed to come on regularly onto the Muckrakers. In fact, we're going to have him back on Thursday. He's talking to Elon. We're going to get it directly from Errol, exactly what has been said. But clearly he's a supporter of Telegram and free speech, and he's got his own battles. What's your take, Basil?
Well, it's a really multifaceted, multi-layered business, this arrest of Pavel Durov, particularly within the European, which has been one of the keenest censors. All sorts of legislation has been passed in recent years about regulating the internet and holding senior executives to account for everything that is posted on their channel, which is frankly bizarre. How can somebody like Durov possibly know from moment to moment what is being posted on Telegram? And Telegram is the least self-constricted of all the platforms, although Musk, and rightly so, has made X far more of a free speech platform than it was under the previous ownership. It's not quite as free speech absolutist as Telegram, which contains some horrific stuff, like, for example, there are channels of Israelis devoted to cheering on the genocide, but he hasn't been arrested for that, Durov. He's been arrested for failing to prevent terrorism, because apparently criminals are using Telegram both for child sex networks and indeed to organize terrorist attacks. That's the claim. Anyway, now, just this morning, the Kremlin has said that the serious accusation against its national, Pavel Durov, would be viewed as an attempt to restrict freedom of communication unless they are backed up with serious evidence. Shades of the Julian Assange case there. Durov, of course, Russian-born, was arrested as part of investigation into crimes about images of child abuse, drug trafficking, and fraudulent transactions on the platform, according to French prosecutors. Reuters have not been able to reach the lawyer for Durov, and I'm not sure that Durov has been able to reach his lawyer either. Apparently, his requests for consular access were initially declined. So just this morning, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has told reporters on a conference call that Russia is ready to provide Durov with all necessary assistance, but that Durov's French citizenship, he is a dual national. He also holds, in fact, he's a triple national because he also holds a UAE passport. And a further wrinkle in this particularly complex international web of intrigue is the disappearance of a glamorous Russian crypto investor who'd been seen with Durov just days before he vanished. She's now vanished too. She's known as Yulia, or Yuli Vavilova, age 24, and she's described as an influencer, investor, and sort of generally a sort of 21st century entity. That's what we get these days, these sort of model influencer crypto investors. A very attractive woman, from what I can tell. And she was seen with Durov before his arrest, and she has completely vanished too. So it's a bit of James Bond type stuff going on here. But there's more to the story than that. It's also been suggested, and this was on Redacted with Clayton Morris, that our jolly old friends, those pesky Israelis, they could be behind the disappearance of Durov, who may well have been arrested on the orders of the CIA. Well, what have the Israelis got to do with it? Well, a few days ago, shortly before Durov's arrest, there was a massive hack of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament website. Huge amounts of data were stolen, apparently by a group of Iranian hackers, but that is anything but proven. At the moment, if you go to the Knesset website, it's basically down. You can't get there. And the threat, of course, is that Telegram is being used along possibly with WikiLeaks for the dissemination of all sorts of information, extremely incriminating to the Israeli government. But we don't know that. That is a degree of speculation, obviously. So that's where we are as of lunchtime today in London.
And it's always, thank you, Baz. It's always interesting, isn't it? I mean, we're quite right to question everything. As George Orwell says, if liberty means anything at all, it's the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. And that, boy, do we continue to do that here on the Muckrakers. The question, however, is the balance between that and these various illegal activities. Because in the press release, what the police are saying is that he's responsible for all this stuff, and he may not himself be part of the criminal thing. It's about complicity and refusal to communicate at the request of the competent authorities information or documents necessary for carrying out the operating interceptions allowed by law. So it goes to the very heart of the responsibilities that these platforms have for the material which is on it. And I think that's sort of looking at that sort of side. But I'm very interested just to have a look at this sort of thing. The custody period was extended until the 25th of August by an investigative magistrate and can last up to 96 hours, basically. So that gives it until the 28th of August, given applicable procedural for organised crime offences. And I think it's worth looking at the background to Telegram itself. For people who don't know, it was founded by Pavel Durov and his brother after Russia's crackdown following pro-democracy protests in 2011-2012. The Russian government tightened control over the internet, requiring telecom companies to store and share communication data with security services. Telegram itself, it promotes privacy, and it became popular amongst Russians originally as a way to communicate and share news securely. In 2018, Russia attempted to ban Telegram for not handing over encryption keys, but the ban was ineffective and it was lifted in 2020. Telegram is now widely used, including by government Russian in Russia, as a major source of news in Ukraine. And then in March 2024, it was reported that Telegram has cooperated with Russian authorities to remove prohibited content. And they also claim, and Telegram itself, they claim to comply with EU laws, because that's the gist of this. This is the main sort of thing, and states that its content moderation practices are improving. I'm not quite sure what those moderation practices are, because it seems as though there's all sorts of material there at the moment. Durov himself, he holds multiple citizenships, frequently travels in Europe, and Telegram argues he is not responsible for platform misuse. What's your take on that, Pele?
Well, I mean, I guess this thing about child pornography, it's what the intelligence agencies always trot out when they want to get at someone. It's never about freedom. It's always about safety, isn't it? And whenever I hear the word safety, I get suspicious, you know? Well, I don't know. I don't have all the, I guess, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to sort of change the terms of the argument and say, well, I mean, is Raytheon responsible for the genocide in Israel? You know, people use guns. Guns don't kill people. People kill guns. So should he be responsible for things that he hadn't conceived of, or just for providing a platform? I guess there's a difference between a publisher and a platform. A publisher is responsible, and a platform is a piece of neutral technology that is agnostic with respect to the stuff that goes on there. From what I understand is that there's only one email account you can do to send your complaints. So it has to be active monitoring by users of illegal content. So, and that rather than the sort of active, the active monitoring that you used to have on Facebook. Facebook, incidentally, has become much more open. I've been posting a lot of the stuff to flag up my own show, which I guess might have been censored 2 or 3 years ago. And I think Zuckerberg's taken his foot off the brakes. So maybe you're seeing what you're seeing in Silicon Valley is you do see Peter Thiel and so on gathering around him, more conservative or more Republican tendencies in Silicon Valley and opening up on the censorship there. So that's a positive counter effect. But I mean, my idea is I'm not a lawyer. I can't really. I'm a sort of free speech absolutist. So I think, you know, anything goes. And I'm always I'm always just viscerally suspicious as soon as anyone talks about safety and harms done. You know, I mean, people playing in the playground is harmful. We've got too much safetyism in our world, you know, and what is it, Generation Z or whatever you want to call it, who are not allowed to go out in the garden barely. And I think that, Andrew, you know, our generation, we were taught to take our knocks in the playground, and yes. We probably saw, you know... talking about. I mean, we grew up in a more I don't know, a rougher world is in a way, and that we didn't have to be barred from everything, and the state and the intelligence agencies have pushed us into this culture of not being exposed to stuff. Anyway, that's my thought on the topic.
I know, very intense. We're going to do a deeper dive into this. I'll tell you what the law is after. It's all about content moderation, to what extent the platforms have to do it. And that's what the police are effectively saying. They haven't done it enough. And you mentioned about Zuckerberg. Well, he's just admitted, we're going to look at this as well, 3 astonishing things. There's a big letter which has just come out saying he admitted that the Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. This is quite shocking stuff. Facebook, as a result, did censor Americans, including about COVID and so on and so forth. And also, he admitted that they were forced to throttle Hunter Biden laptop stories. So the pressure that's put on these platforms by those in power needs to be examined as well.